Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Today, I'm joined by Scott Cody, founder of Latitude Financial Group, a firm that specializes in helping women in transition, business owners, and near retirees gain confidence and clarity and in uncertain times. Scott, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. I appreciate you having me.
Awesome. Great to have you here. Can you share a little bit more about who you are and the work that you're doing right now?
Sure. Again, my name's Scott Cody, partner at Latitude Financial Group. Me and my business partner, Dan Grote, founded Latitude Financial Group in 2008. We had been in the same, a larger firm when we first met in 2002. Most of our work has centered around, that of true financial planning, coming up with a written plan for folks, and then executing that plan, and giving a timeline to that plan.
Oh, that's great. So what was it first that really led you to the financial industry or to the work that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so my education is I have a bachelor's in business administration as well as an MBA, master's in business administration, and had a focus actually in marketing research. And so my first job out of college was doing market analysis for a grocery chain back east, closer to your neck of the woods, actually, Daniel, in Rochester, New York,
Oh, okay.
called Wegmans.
Yeah.
And so I did market research, and after doing that for a bit, decided, I didn't want to do that type of analysis, 24/7, 365. I really wanted to have an impact on my work and share that work. And so I got into the financial services industry.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, we got something a little bit more in common in there. I took business administration and marketing myself, but the
Okay.
first job was getting recruited into the insurance business. So
Yeah, it sounds.
I pretty well knew like I think that's what it comes down to often. It's like the first job you're going to have with something like that is probably going to be in sales or somewhere along those lines, right?
Yeah, very much, very
Yeah.
much.
So
Yeah.
no, that's great. Now you describe yourself as a quality guide or a financial outfitter. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so being in the Rocky Mountain region, it's sort of themed. Our theme is sort of, an financial outfitter. So often when we sit with folks, it's not uncommon at all. I would say probably 8 or 9 out of 10 folks that we sit with, they have this sort of financial junk drawer. And we've got to make some sense of that junk drawer. And so I would equate to the work we do is one like a, fishing outfitter or guide, or someone who's going up a mountain and they need a
Like a Sherpa.
Sherpa.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so since for most folks, they haven't done this before, navigating the water, or that particular stream, or that particular mountain. Well, wouldn't it be nice if you had someone there to help guide you, who has been there before and understands where the better waters or troubling waters reside, or where there's some more difficult parts of coming up a mountain, and then you've got to get down the mountain. And so we would equate our work to that of a guide.
Yeah. No, that's a great analogy and how it comes down now. It sounds like you've built your firm, really helping people through kind of those life's toughest transition. What's been the most meaningful part of the work that that you're doing?
I think it's when they actually either see their goal, or they're living their goal.
Mm.
Either see it that it's, just a couple years out, let's say, i.e., retirement, or this morning, in fact, we were sitting with some folks. We're all roughly the same age, and we started working with them 20 years ago now. And we were funding their children's education. Well, guess what? Their kids are now in school, now in college, and actually using those funds today. And so it's pretty rewarding to see that plan come to fruition.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like seeing them actually seeing kind of the fruits of your labor and how that's
Correct.
really had an impact on their lives. So,
Yeah.
well, then you know what? Let's go a little bit more to the beginning. When a new client first reached out to you, what's
Yep.
the situation, that you usually, what situation are they usually financially that you started helping them with?
Yeah. So that I would say for our work, that's certainly um, there's a certain range that we often see, but a lot of folks um, will typically get to a point that they have some stuff. It's sort of that financial junk drawer that I was speaking to, and we're trying to make sense of it. And they've gotten to a point in their personal life that, you know, it's either getting too overwhelming for them, or they've identified that, this isn't where they want to spend their time, or they just don't have the interest
No.
to do the research themselves. And they're looking to pull in a professional that point and provide some feedback and guidance to their situation today, as well as what they're trying to achieve or accomplish.
Oh, okay. Now, typically, what are some of the challenges that your clients don't notice, right, or don't realize that they're facing until they start working together with you?
Yeah, I think often some people think that, some of these markets go on forever and that they can just pull out in retirement what they're earning, what the what they say they've earned in their account for the year, and they assume they can pull out all that gain and interest, and that's what they can live on. And so it could be a bit of a wake up call and say, no, that's not really what you can live on, because if we've had a really good year, um, that some of that needs to be reinvested. Um, I also think that it probably takes a lot more than people realize in terms of either, you know, part of the conversation this morning was, hey, our youngest is just entering their first semester in college. Our oldest is, about a year away, but in all likelihood, we still have several more years to to provide, financial assistance to them until they're sort of ready to launch and stand on their own. It's not just when they graduate from college. The reality is they're probably going to need less and less help, but they're probably going to need some financial help still for a few more years.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and again, this is where it comes down with planning, right? It's every client's kind of unique in their situation. So I imagine a lot of people kind of feel really overwhelmed, when they come to you with all of the different choices. How do you actually help them to kind of move more from that confusion to have that confidence and knowing that, that they're going to be taken care of?
Yeah, I think one of the benefits, that people get away or take away with working with a professional is that, we see a lot of cases. So we kind of know what works and what hasn't. And that, you know, we have many test cases under our belt to see, how things have worked out when people take a certain path versus not taking a certain path. And then I think to, reduce their number of options available to them, you know, that's where it's sort of like walking into a grocery store and saying, I want cereal. Well, you go to the cereal aisle and you see hundreds of boxes of cereal, and how do we narrow it to choose the one that's, a good fit for us? And ultimately that's where, uh it's working with someone who's, like I said, been there before, have seen it, done it, and what's going to be the optimal option for the client.
Yeah, you bring a good point when it comes down to like, using the analogy of the cereal, right? Like there are some likes or dislikes. There are some things that you do like or you don't like. Well, if you start eliminating those, then it becomes a little bit easier to start making those decisions and the focus that you need to have to figure out what it is. But I think
Right.
often what people do, they kind of using again the analogy of the cereal, they just go there and they're just staring at all the options and they don't feel like I don't know what to choose because they're just overwhelmed by everything that's there. So if you start eliminating some of those choices and ideas,
Absolutely.
it will become easier, right?
Yep.
I know part of the market that you're working with are business owners.
Mhm.
So, for business owners thinking about, exiting or retiring, what are some of the biggest money traps or missed opportunity that you see when you work with business owners?
Yeah, I think it's, one, depending on their cash flow, are they maximizing or utilizing uh, all the retirement plan options available? Um, I think, depending on the type of industry, so the type of business they have, are they looking at all of the tax options to utilize on exit? Um, are they, are they having employees buy them out or a key employee buy them out? Or is it, you know, someone that they found through a business broker? I think all of those things play a factor. And certainly, like I said, the type of business, um, the industry they reside also can be an important factor when they start looking at exit planning and selling their business.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the important part when it comes down to, exiting a business, and I had one coach that told me, Daniel, the most important thing for you when you start a business is to start thinking about the exit strategy. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm just starting the business. Shouldn't I just focus on starting and all that? No, no, no. The most important part is the exit because unfortunately, so many business owners don't think about that. And, really at the end of the day, they just kind of have a glorified job
Right.
instead of a business because the definition of business is an entity that can go and run on itself, right?
Absolutely. And I think, on that point, Daniel, like, again, depending on the business, do you have a physical location? Is that physical location? Do you own it? Do you
Mm.
lease it? Is that part of the sale? Are they two separate sales, the business itself versus the physical space? A lot of people don't give those things thought.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
why do you think so many people delay planning? Even when, they know it's good for them, and this is an example, not just for the business owners, but also for individuals.
Mhm.
I feel like often people kind of say, well, you know what, we'll do it next year or we'll do it tomorrow. And unfortunately, as we know, tomorrow never comes. Tomorrow is always tomorrow. But
Correct.
why do you kind of think that that is from your experience?
Again, pulling another analogy into this conversation, I think it would be like going to the dentist. That, no one enjoys going to the dentist. In
Mm.
fact, most dentists probably have a pretty negative, most people have a pretty negative view of going to the dentist, except for their dentist.
Mm.
And I think it's the lack of a relationship.
Mm.
And I do think there's fear. They could have done more. They could have started earlier. They should have. They knew better, and we can come up with a lot of excuses at the end of the day. But I would tell you the earlier you get started and the sooner you find a good relationship that's going to be hold you accountable to your goals and
Mm.
objectives, and someone you can, you feel like supports you, has your best interest at heart, um, and that, you have good communication with that person and some clear objectives, I think the better off you'll be. It would be finding, the right trainer, the right coach, the right doctor in your circle of advisors, as we call it, when we first sit with someone. And I think, if you find that professional, I think you'll find that, um, you'll be better off. And the sooner you
Yeah.
can find that. But we delay it, a lot of fear. I think it's mostly fear.
Yeah. Yeah. You bring a great point that it's a relationship. and
It
I
is a,
think this is where it comes down to, and you do bring a valid point that if you're already working with somebody that, with an advisor, that it's a lot easier to go and do the planning and do those things as opposed to if you don't. So I think the biggest thing and kind of the one of the first steps that someone should do is really start learning or seeking out individuals that you can go and build that relationship. And I've said this for years, being an advisor myself and working with advisors, that this business is never about money. It's
no,
always about relationships.
it is. Absolutely.
Even it's more about relationship that you have with money than the money itself, because that's going to determine what's actually going to happen.
Correct. And I look at it as my clientele, you know, they're my employer. They're the ones that hire and fire me at the end of the day. And so, I'm accountable to them, but they're accountable to me. They've asked me to keep them accountable, that they have an objective or objectives that they're trying to reach and accomplish. And, I take that to heart. And we need to have, regular, consistent communication.
Mm.
Does it need to be every day? No, it doesn't need to be every day. In fact, it probably doesn't need to be every week. But I think something's akin to someone's CPA, tax professional, their dentist that they probably see a couple times a year.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring a good point because it's not, that you got to be contact with your clients on a daily or weekly basis. But I
No,
think when people are making decisions, it's always good to have a different perspective. And
absolutely.
especially when they're a little bit bigger financial decisions or somebody buying a car or a house or something like that, often people don't think about reaching out to their financial advisor. And it's not just like, hey, you know what, you're going to try to sell them something. It's just
Right.
like, let's talk about it and see if maybe there is a better strategy or something that maybe they have missed. And it's always better to go in, and that's the whole idea of planning, is to be prepared for what's going to happen. Once it
Exactly.
happens, it's kind of difficult to plan for anything because it's already after the fact.
Yeah. It'd be like, I wish I had that insurance before I got into the auto accident,
Yeah, a
you know,
perfect example. Yeah,
instead
I
of
said,
after.
yeah,
Yeah.
it would be great if you could buy an insurance 5 seconds before you need it. That would be the
That's
perfect time
exact
for it.
right. But as you and I know, it doesn't work that
It
way.
doesn't, yeah, life doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Yeah.
Right.
Now, you've talked about kind of being a financial interpreter, and you talked about, really helping clients make sense of, advice from multiple different professionals. Can you share a story maybe that, that really made a difference where you were able to go and help somebody? With that situation where they were maybe making a decision or they were working with different, other professionals, that you were able to go and kind of give them a little bit more clarity around what was happening.
Yeah. Was working with someone who was receiving an inheritance,
Mm.
husband and wife, and it was the husband's family father who had passed, and he had multiple uh, advisors. So CPA, had an estate planning attorney, and so they were receiving inheritance. Some of it was outside of a trust, some of it was within a trust. Um, and, they saw the impact that taxes had on his father's estate, and he had a few siblings, so it was the father's estate was divided up evenly. But if the father had, he was a DIY, so he did all of his own investment work, um, and but what was, wise enough, I'll say, and knowledgeable enough. So I think knowledge is acquired, um, and he was wise enough to bring in a tax professional and estate planning attorney. Um, but if he had taken it just one step further, uh, and brought in, a financial professional onto the team, they probably could have mitigated, and we've talked about it, the client and myself, um, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in this case. And it wouldn't have been that difficult or costly, and he certainly had the means to do it. And, the client's very grateful for, what he has and what his father had done for them, again, as siblings. But it could have been optimized and could have been more efficient had he pulled in, uh, just one more person onto the team. Um, and, they would have been even more better off, or, but it would have saved, in this case, not only tens of thousands, but in this case, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
So you mentioned something about having knowledge and wisdom, and I kind of have a saying for that, bit of an analogy that what knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit, but wisdom is knowing not to put it into your fruit salad. And I think
I think that's
that's really
great.
what it comes down to. Like you
It
said, what they
does.
had the knowledge of what they were able to do, but wisdom would have been maybe bring a little bit, few more professionals
Yeah,
into that situation. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I like that. I'm going to use that in the future. I'm
yeah.
going to take that from you.
Yeah, no, totally borrowed.
I,
I'm sure it's not my idea. I'm sure I wasn't that smart to come up with that. So, now, what's most important to you when it comes to how you kind of serve your clients beyond the numbers? Like we talked about that the financial
sure.
business is about relationships,
Yeah,
but what is that for you? What's that important part?
I think ultimately they have a really positive experience and outcome. And so their outcome, meaning their goals, and, I get it sometimes. Well, you'll get your wires crossed on a certain time or location meeting with folks. That's not really what I'm referring to. What I'm referring to is big picture, that it's really important to me that we accomplish their goal and objective. Now, I can't, as a professional, I can't care about it more than they do. So, they're the ones that need to put in the sweat equity. And I tell them that I don't walk in your shoes. But I'm here as your guide, as your advisor. And I would say, you know, I want to do my very best to make that happen.
Hmm.
As much as I can control on my end, it's important to me because it's important to you. But I can't care about it more than you. So if your plan says we need to achieve X in order for that plan, so Daniel, you've got to save X and we've got to earn X, but you don't save X and you're unwilling to do what the things or the types of investments and savings that it takes to achieve X, well, I can lead a horse to water, but ultimately you need to, you know, be that and not be the obstacle between, or be that barrier between that. And so,
Yeah. Oh,
yes,
you brought the analogy. I was going to mention that. So you know what? Yeah, you can lead the horse to the water. You can make them drink, but I think your job comes. You can make them thirsty, right?
yes,
So
there
you
you
can
go.
go and run them. You can go and run the horse to make it thirsty, so that it can go and build. So I think that's a perfect way of doing that with your clients, right? Like you can make them do something they don't want to do, but you can
Correct.
show them what is possible, right? And this
Yes,
is where it comes down to. That's where the motivation comes and help them with their goals and help
right.
them to kind of plan and show them that actually, yeah, there are things that are possible, that they can do and how they can go and set things up, for themselves. So
Exactly.
so when it comes and when you think about your own legacy, what do you want your business and life to really stand for?
Oh, wow. Um, I think that, I've done a good job and people recognize that I was there to help, and, I was there to help them accomplish their goal, and we did it in a, you know, mutually beneficial way, that they were able to achieve their objective, and they felt, I was there, and, I did a professional job, you know, and that it was important to me. And I think that's, important to be, a professional, and, say what you're going to do and do what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And I think that would be it.
Yeah. No, that's great. Like, listen, you clearly, care deeply about the work that you do and the clients, and you want them to have a peace of mind.
Yep.
Is there and I'm not quite sure how to ask that. Like, is there a reason, or why does that matter so much to you? Like, is there something that has led to that in the past, that you kind of have this view?
No, I just think that's who I am. And that again, I go back to, you know, the clients, are my boss, my clientele, individually. They ultimately hire and fire me, and I want to do well by them, and that, you know, I want to be able to help them, achieve what we were set forth to achieve.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there are kind of values, and maybe it comes down to just the way that you grew up, the way you were brought up, and
Yeah.
and going and doing that. So no, that's
Yeah.
great. It's a great quality. I'm not saying that. I'm just wondering if there was a
Yeah. Where does
something
it get?
behind the ground or an experience.
No, there was
Often,
no individual like experience or uh, incident or situation that
okay.
necessarily I just have felt that way from day
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, no, that's great. That also
Yeah.
adds to the story, that kind of speaks what and how you were, brought up. Now, is
Yeah.
there a project or something that you're working on right now that that you can share with us?
Well, we recently added to our team in the last 12 months, a new team member. And, and so from that perspective, I would say, that's certainly a new product or project. Max is his name, and Max has come onto our team in the last year. Um, and he's got it's from Colorado, native, and he went to CU, Colorado University at Boulder.
Mm.
And so we're pretty excited about having a new team member.
Yeah, no, it's great. Your team is growing, and again, that's what it comes down
Yep.
to, when you're doing that. So listen, as we kind of coming to the close, I've got these four questions that I always ask. They're kind of I call them kind of a bit of a hit question, where it's whatever
Sure.
comes to your mind first. Just kind of go and answer it when you go and do it. Kind of a rapid fire. What's a
Yeah.
favorite book that has really shaped your thinking, or where you're what you're doing?
Professionally?
It could be professionally or personally. There's really no
Okay.
no preference. So and you
Yeah.
can mention for both each, whatever you.
Uh, yeah. So professionally, um, there was a book out by one of my favorite fund managers, and by David Giroux, and it's called Capital Allocation. And so um, I'm enjoying that book currently. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah.
great. Now,
Yep.
is there a morning routine or a habit that you can't live without?
Morning coffee first thing. Yes.
Yeah,
I'd be I'd be pretty grumpy if I didn't have it.
yeah.
Yep.
Is there one bucket list item that you have not checked off yet?
Yeah, I'd like to do Mardi Gras in Venice.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
Mardi
Yeah.
Gras and Venice, or Mardi Gras in
In
Venice?
Venice, in
In Venice.
Venice.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
All
That's
right.
on the bucket list. I've been to Venice
Yeah.
several times, but I'd like to actually do Mardi Gras in Venice.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. I don't know. Mardi Gras, I'm thinking more in Louisiana down.
Yeah. No, no, in Venice. Yeah.
Oh, oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's a surprising hobby or passion that really recharges you outside of work?
Yeah, I think exercising.
Mm,
I probably exercise 5 or 6 times a week, and you know, there's the obvious health benefits of that, but for
mm,
me, it's my it's my mental medicine.
mm.
Um, Allows me to escape, turn off the noise from work professionally, and yeah, it kind of recharges me, and so it's kind of necessary, or at least I
Yeah.
can't let more than a couple days go by without getting that medicine.
Yeah. No, no, it's great. Yeah, I mean, being in shape, again, I tend to look at life from this perspective. There's four core areas of life. There is our body, there
Yep.
is our being, there
Yeah.
is our, family, and then there is
Absolutely.
business, right? And it can't
Yeah.
be all just one. You kind of have
No.
to have a mix of all of that. And body is kind of the first one. Reason it's first is because when we're not able to do things with our bodies, it's pretty well difficult to do anything else,
Yeah,
and I think that's really an important, important part of that. So, yeah,
absolutely.
going and staying fit is important.
I
Now,
totally agree.
yeah. Now I've got I call it a kind of a hot question that I ask. Last question. Fast forward to the end of your life and imagine that everyone that you ever worked with or you shared with them, they forgot everything, okay, that you have taught them or you advised them on, but they do
Mhm.
remember one kind of that last message from you. What would that message be?
Wow. Um, enjoy the time we spent together, getting to know them. Enjoy the time getting
Yeah.
to know them. Because as you said, Daniel, and I wholeheartedly agree, this is a relationship business,
Mm.
and that you know, and I think, life is about experiences. At least for me, it's less about things, stuff. And so I think, obviously relationships play an important role in our experiences. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great advice. Now, yeah, when it comes down to, and I think there was a book that was written, somebody that went to like an old age home or something like that, and they went and interviewed individuals, and time after time, nobody said, "I wish I spent more time at the office," or "I wish I did more work." It was
Absolutely.
mostly, "I wish I invested more time with the loved ones when we gone on vacations."
Yeah,
And these type of things than, focusing on just kind of about work. It's just unfortunate sometimes we do get caught up in life and don't realize that, hey, you know what, life is for living, right?
that's exactly it.
Yeah.
You're exactly right.
So,
Yeah,
so no,
well said.
that's really great. Wow.
Yeah,
Listen, what a powerful and perspective shifting conversation that we had, Scott. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing your journey and, with us. Where can people find out more about you and the type of work that you do?
yeah. And so you can find us at latitudefinancialgroup.com. My email is scott@latitudefinancialgroup.com. And yeah, and my business partner, Dan, as well. So
Perfect. So if you're listening, be sure to check out Scott's website and the tools and things that Scott has created again to help you to really design a meaningful, retirement and meaningful plan for, for that. So Scott, thank you again for your time and for your message. And remember, Make Life Less Taxing isn't just about money. It's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you next time on the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Thank you again, Scott.
thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at makelifilesstaxingpodcast.com.